Is the enthusiast car market crashing, or is it just a correction? And what's the difference? Let's find out right now. Nerd! Beat Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Well, look at that. Can you guys hear us? I think we're actually live. Michael Deeb in San Francisco. You can imagine that town is a little crazy right now. San Francisco can do one thing right, and that's basically get into Super Bowls so they can lose. But they can't do anything else. But, hey, it's all good. Congrats to the San Francisco fan over here. What's up, Michael Deeb?
Oh, I'm celebrating. There's a party going on at my house, that's for sure.
And you're in the basement.
Yeah, and I'm in the guest room. I got to go on a podcast, and they're like, "Don't wait for us." I'm like, "All right, see you later. I gotta go." My partner is gonna murder my face if I take any longer staring at the televiation.
Well, we have all four people sitting there watching, going, "Hey, where's the show gonna start here, guys?"
I know. The game took a little longer. The Niners basically didn't play the first half, and then they won it all in the second half. So it was a really fun game. But thank you, JP, for waiting up for me to jump on here.
Don't thank me. Thank the Nerd Herd. They're the ones that are waiting for you.
Yeah, look, we're all car guys, but this nerd also loves balls and sports and all the crazy things. So that was really fun to watch my team. I might have to come out to Vegas. We should do a show in 2 weeks' time. Maybe I come out for the game and then come and be in studio with you, hammered drunk, hopefully celebrating a Niners Super Bowl win. That would be maybe one of the most off the rail shows we could ever do. Hope to produce, right?
Are you gonna get tickets for the game?
I don't think so. I probably not. But
just being in Vegas would be a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. That might be fun in unto itself. But I think we're actually, because we just moved up here, so we're gonna have a little housewarming / Esther's birthday / Super Bowl party. So we're calling it a super, what do we call it? A super warm birthday bowl.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, the Nerd Herd is signing on right now. We have the OGs, man. We got the usual suspects. Chris is hanging out. Michael Myers, Buddha, saw him at Carzoon Cafe. Had a beautiful show in Las Vegas.
Yeah, your show was good, huh?
Insane this morning. Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Like, it was 70 degrees out. It was so nice. The Spud Syndicate is in action. Randy B is in the house. I haven't seen Anthony just yet. I'm sure he'll be on very, very soon. Ross in New Zealand. I'm sure he's a big Super Bowl fan or footballs fan. And so I'm sure he's going, yay Niners or something. Welcome, Nerd Herd. We love you guys. Shout out to our good friends, Godden Classic and Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. They showed up at Carzoon Cafe this morning in
JP,
in force as usual.
Look at what do you call it? The sleeve that surrounds
it's a skin.
us.
We call it the skin.
Right there.
So we have the
there where it says Godden Classic. Nice.
That is true. That is true.
Very fancy.
Maybe you should get a fine Swiss watch from Hoursmiths. I'm just saying.
I'm working on that.
I placed an order. Hook you up. Oh, you did. You placed an order.
Well, I put something that is on my want list, and the person, Anthony that owns and operates Hoursmiths, told me that the watch that I requested, which is a specific 1 year only that they made, like they call it an anniversary. He said, "Michael, that's the next watch I'm looking for." He goes, "I'm actually looking for one of those." I said, "That's great, because I can't afford mine just now because we just moved." But I said, "You get yourself one, and then the next one you get, will you please offer it to me?" And he said, "I will get those watches by the end of the year," because he rolls with all the watches. So anyways, it was really cool. Yeah, so I've placed my order. Anthony knows what I'm looking for, and the other thing, JP, I understand that, if I'm not disclosing too much on air, that you've put in to get a clock for your 911.
Yeah. I mean, so I got one actually for Rami, It's actually here and supposedly it's not radioactive or anything.
Yeah, because it's Russian, right?
It's Russian, and I guess some of the older ones they used iridium or
have
something
plutonium
that's radioactive or something like that. So looks like Anthony's finally here. Yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony has promised me one that is Swiss, and
nice.
I'm excited whenever that happens to get that and then have it put into my car, into the chiffon car, which I'm really excited about. So I think those things are so a watch down the road and maybe a clock for the car by spring or summer or something like that. I don't know what the time frame is.
Clock for the car is a heck of a lot less expensive than the fancy watch. Just want to shout out to all our friends on Instagram who are watching us on Instagram live right now. I'm going to switch that off. Come on over to YouTube if you haven't already. We are live on YouTube, and you'll be able to see the cars and hear Michael Deeb. So thanks for hanging out, guys, on the Instagram. Ending that one. So if you're a new Nerd Herd member, thank you. Welcome. You may have heard about the show. What we do is we find the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites, and we make predictions about those auctions. And we talk about the cars and why we think the results that we think will happen. And that's the fun part. We always start out by reconciling our predictions from the last episode, and they're always bad. So let's go ahead and get started with the cars. The kind of theme tonight is correction or crash. Maybe just before we get into the cars, I just kind of want to like what's the difference between a correction and a crash in your opinion, Michael Deeb? Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I think it's about how steep the decline is in values from what they had previously been in the, let's say, previous 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters of if values are pretty consistent for, half a year to a year, and then all of a sudden values drop. If they drop a little bit, if we're talking 5% or 10% over the course of another quarter, and then maybe another 5% or another 10% over another quarter of a year, I would call that a correction. But if you lose 30% in a quarter or 40% in a half a year or something, and you get a really steep decline in values, then you've got people that are buried in their cars, financially, especially if they're financing them and stuff, where they couldn't sell the car and get the money they still owe on it out of it. I'd call that a crash. So that, to me, the distinction is how steep is the decline, how rapid is it, and how many percentage points. 5-10%, over the course of part of the year or over the course of a whole year, that's a correction. But 30% or more in less than a year, we're starting to talk. I think we're talking a little bit of a crash. And I think we saw that a little while ago, but it immediately started to plateau out. But most of the basic collector cars, I think are soft. And, depending, the news really dictates what's going to happen. If we get some more bad news and whatever else, we're going into election year, I think things could continue to soften. The blue chip stuff will still bring record prices, but I think, your basic 911, your basic Alpha Spider, I think those kinds of cars are going to, you pay top dollar for one, you better plan on hanging on to it. I wouldn't be paying top dollar for something you plan to flip,
Well, so I don't know. I mean, I don't disagree with your analysis of generally the market, but I do disagree with your definition, right? So that, the difference between a correction and a crash, right? It's not that one is a lesser unit of measurement than the other, which is kind of what you're saying. A correction is just not as big a deal as a crash, but
yeah.
Really, it's not. It's a distinction. They both represent a drop in values for call it a commodity, right? But one is let's hear. A correction and a crash can be the same thing, but a correction is not necessarily a crash, because what's going on right now is the values are going back to the way they were before there was crazy artificial stuff going on in the market. So a crash is when values plummet and people don't really know why, and they're trying to figure it out, right? And I don't even know if they don't know why, but it's really just a matter of numbers going to. What we're seeing right now in the market is the market going back to the way it used to be before there was so much meddling in it. We are correcting back to the market of 2019. Everything just happened in the last 4 years was totally screwed up because there were all kinds of artificial market pressure from tons of money being printed, from shortages happening due to weird supply chain problems that, there's a million videos that talk about all that kind of stuff. But what's going on is all those weird kinks that entered the market that wouldn't normally have, that forced prices up, have now been removed. We don't have the shortages. We don't have all kinds of excess money and liquidity in the market, meaning that fewer people have access to capital, which means capital is going back to being expensive. It's actually, money is more expensive than it was in 2019, right? So we're kind of seeing where if you had skipped 2020, 21, 22, and 23 and just went from 2019 to 2024 and just raised interest rates in that point, that's about where we'd be at. It was just so much shenanigans in 4 freaking years that who the hell knows what's going on, right?
There are a lot of people listening that wish we could do just that. But,
right? Wouldn't that be awesome, man? And then skip the next 4 years. Jesus. Go right to Civil War and World War III, right? Okay, good stuff. Love it.
Yeah. JP, you and I, we hit puberty in the 80s when it was, dangerous to have sex. Unprotected. We missed the whole great golden era of free love, So, if we're playing in Fantasyland, that's the first thing I think of, but whatever.
Well, in the 80s, interest rates were as high as they are now.
Oh, that's true.
Or
Absolutely.
higher, actually, if you think about it. That was about
we had to build we had to build satellites, Reaganomics and Star Wars and all that stuff. I remember we got Time magazine.
Yeah. All right. JP, well, that's a whole other conversation.
This idiot forgot to charge his phone during the game, and so I apologize, but we're going to zip through our recaps if that's okay. And if you're ready, why don't we jump in on that first one?
All right, let's cue it. What was the first car from the list last
week?
So
let's start with the Subaru, the 1998 Subaru Impreza WRX. This was the right-hand drive 22B STI coupe that started this whole contemporary homologation rally craze that eventually made it to the U.S. But I think a car like this, and I understand there were a lot of other domestic Japanese cars similar to this, but this one got a lot of international press for being a car that truly did homologate parts that Subaru needed to utilize to be competitive, and then ultimately eventually dominate World Rally with Peter Solberg, and there was somebody else that raced for them that was also really good, McRae. Before that, the Brit McRae, who unfortunately passed away. This was the car that Americans especially looked longingly across the Pacific and said, man, I wish they made that in left-hand drive and brought it to the States. Only 400 are made. The car is really incredible. And one of the things that Paul Kramer from Auto Kennel, who was one of our guest hosts from last week, said, there are a lot of aftermarket parts and a roll bar, a roll cage welded into this car, and he thought that would hold back values, which was pretty astute. I went to what I thought a retail value for a 22 could be with these low miles, and I said $160,000. JP, you took the under at 145, and I think you were leaning on the right-hand drive being an inhibitor. Paul said 150, citing what I just said, that this car is not close enough to perfect, that you'd have to spend a lot of money to get it there. So you have to account for the expense that needed to be paid to bring it back to collector value. And then Chef astutely took the under after listening to everybody else and went 137. Chef was a smart man in the room. The quiet ones always know what's going on. Our car sold for $135,000 on just 17 bids on Cars and Bids. So JP, really quickly, I was surprised that it sold at 135. If you would have told me when we were looking at it that 135 would be the hammer, I would have claimed that to be an FTS. But it sold on that. So are you surprised it sold on that? And are you surprised that DeMiro got the money for it? 135 is still, if you take Paul's argument and apply it to $15,000 under his bid, that actually makes like a good sense business deal, because you could go spend 15 grand to bring it back to stock, be in the car 150. And I think if the market comes back, you got a low mile stock unobtainium car on our shores, domestic title. That seems like a good investment to me. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, didn't this car have an accident? I think people were sleuthing through
In Japan. Yeah, they said it was minor in Japan. Yeah, so
I mean, is an accident in Japan? Does that not count? I mean, I don't know. I mean, no, that doesn't matter.
No, don't be ridiculous.
It's like another zip. If it happened in another zip code, it didn't happen. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know these cars. I mean, you're talking about you're naming a bunch of names of famous rally drivers, and I appreciate all that stuff, but I don't know and I don't care. So it really doesn't mean like I said, on the other side of this, this car just doesn't speak to me. It just looks like a WRX that you would find at any JDM meet, and I know it's not. So. Yeah. Relax in the comments, guys. I know it's a special one, and that's cool, but it's not for me. I mean, the nerd herd was all over the place, and they were way more optimists like you. I mean, Chris Carbine and Gerd's been really good. He was on a heater on the last episode, but he was way over at 205. Looks like Ross is at 205 as well. I mean, so look, I'm this thing didn't bring big money, and frankly, I'm kind of glad. I just don't think this car deserves the big money. It wasn't well presented. It had questions. That's always going to hurt. It's always going to hurt. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do. And we brought that out. They provided the Carfax. There were some questions, there were some modifications. And I think, again, you get excited when you see these limited edition cars. They're numbered, they're small batch of production, and it's not a car that was sold here, and people start seeing, even me, start seeing the red mist. But I think that the number and the fact that it sold for that number, I think that all makes sense. So I think that was money well paid, and well sold. I think everybody won on that one.
The right-hand drive thing is a big thing too. I mean, look, one car I do know, like Land Rover Defenders, right? You see the ones that if you have the exact same Land Rover Defender, right? Yeah, the old ones. Call it I don't know, a 90 or something like that from Europe, right? Not one of the NA ones, not one of the North American ones, but you bring in a nice Defender from Europe in good shape, and you have one that's right-hand drive and one that's left-hand drive. The one that's left-hand drive will bring 50 to 70 grand. The one that's right-hand drive will never get more than 30. Doesn't matter how cool it is, how badass it is. Rami had that one that had a con body kit. It was a 4-door. It had all the cool stuff, fancy wheels, seats, everything. But it was a right-hand drive.
Couldn't give it away.
Couldn't give that thing away. Pile of crap, but they all are. But that's my point, is that the American market, the JDM kids, there's very few of them have much more. Most of the JDM kids get into the JDM stuff because they don't have the money to get the things that they actually want. The right-hand drive thing is a cool novelty for a car show. But if I'm going to spend six figures or more, what do you want this thing for? I don't know. What do you guys think of the results of this WRX, this special thing? Was that well bought? Should it have failed to sell? Are you surprised that Cars and Bids set a reserve that was reasonable and actually got it done, and that the seller wasn't crazy? That, to me, I think is the biggest news here, is that, the seller didn't come to market going, I want $1 gajillion, and Cars and Bids was like, good, because we're not going to let you have that reserve for something like this. Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to the next car that we made a prediction on.
All right, JP. We got a 1990 Audi Coupe Quattro on Bring a Trailer that the more we talked about, the more everybody in studio seemed to really like. This car looked to be in fairly decent condition, showing 1,900 miles, but true mileage unknown. I think somebody had looked at the Carfax and decided that this was like a 90,000 mile example, if I'm remembering the car correctly. This was also one of the first Audis to have that patented 20 valve or 5 valve head, as you should say. It's got cool speedline wheels and a Momo steering wheel. And of course, it's a Quattro. Cars from this generation from Audi were not massive commercial successes in the United States. And then so very few were sold. So seeing one today that looks to be in stock, unbeat up, and largely original condition winds up being something worthy of talking about. Our car was fun to cover. And with that in mind, I jumped in at $16,000 to start the bidding. JP took the under by about $1,000, going $15,090. Paul Kramer liked the car. Car was right in his backyard down there in Torrance, California. He said $13,500, and then Chef took $100 over him and went to $13,600. JP, our car did sell, and you were the winner on this one because it brought $14,500 at Hammer, putting you just about $500 off of a Yahtzee. It only took 15 bids, so not a lot of action. But this is also a car that's just not for everybody. Paul Kramer said something, and you and I use this phrase for quite a few cars that I think are worthy of it. But Paul said that a car like this could be a good entry into the sports car or classic car niche for somebody that's just stepping in. And I think he's talking about a car with a low entry point for getting in. In other words, not a big cost to join your friends and go up to the Crest on the weekends or show up at a car event, and certainly have a car that's going to get a lot of attention and be a head turner. But I don't rate these cars the same way he might from a reliability standpoint. I still think that these cars are, mildly troublesome. And unless you have a good Audi technician, somebody who might have worked for Audi when these cars were new, I don't know that I would recommend this car to a friend that's never done it before. What are your thoughts on that result and Paul's comments as a good entry car? I didn't contest it when he said it, but I don't know that I fully agree with it. From a price point, yeah, but from a maintenance standpoint, I think this could turn somebody out of the genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's anything classic for under 20 grand. You're always looking at, having that kind of scary moment. And car repair prices and maintenance prices are crazy high, and aren't going down on anything. Even Toyotas and Hondas are expensive to service nowadays. In American cars, certainly less than an old Audi. The big trick is just finding someone to work on this. But I mean, is it any worse than getting an old Alfa? I think you're probably going to have an easier time finding someone to turn a wrench on this thing than you would anything Italian. That straight five, we actually, you and I kind of had a moment there where we were like, hey, is this the same? I pointed out that this car, as far as I know, was the only one that had the straight 5-cylinder engine inline.
Right.
Which is what I was getting at. Whereas the new ones, all the new stuff with the 5 cylinders are horizontal. So that kind of makes this interesting, and that probably adds to making it even harder to find parts for something like this.
It might. I actually, going back to your thing, you might find a more competent Audi mechanic easier. You might, especially since this car is kind of a 90s car, right? Mm-hmm. But those old Alphas that we talk about and love, like stuff from the early 60s, late 60s, 70s, and 80s, they all use the basic same engine and gearbox. Like those cars, the parts for finding those cars is easy. Finding a good, honest, competent mechanic, that's hit or miss. That's like roulette. But as far as finding parts for the Alpha, it's surprisingly easy because they just made one thing for 30 years. Yeah. Whereas Audis are so quirky, and I doubt anybody's producing some of those niche old parts for these cars. I don't know what you do. Yeah. But anyway, enough about this car.
Well, no, but that's a good point though, because on the not only the engine's basically the same damn engine powertrain on everything. They're also you can reach stuff. There's room to get your hands in between and around the engine and reach the intake manifold or pull the valve cover off to, change the valve cover gasket or something like that. Try pulling the head off, or the intake manifold off of this 5-cylinder crazy thing. I mean, there's no room in there at all. This is the era where they started using plastic parts and stuff with Audis, and Volkswagen started to go that route too. True. But So what do you guys think of the results of this little Audi? Was this well bought? Is this, like Paul Kramer says, a great way to get into the enthusiast car scene to have something that's actually kind of unique and cool, or is it too unique and too hard to work on, which would make it really kind of a bad car for a starter collector to get into because, they should just take up crack or heroin. It would be better for their financial and mental well-being, like we always like to say. All right. Let's talk about a car that would be hard to find parts for this next one.
Totally.
Whew, what do you do if you get in an accident in this thing?
But I still want this car. Isn't that funny? It's like this car would cost 10 times as much, and yet I don't care. I still want it. So what JP's talking about is the 1989 BMW Z1 that was on Cars and Bids. Really nice car in a very unusual shade of black. I'm opening this car again for no reason. But it's basically built on an E30, like a 325 E30 platform with the same 2.5 liter inline six, rear wheel drive, 5-speed manual. I don't know that it necessarily has a shorter wheelbase, but it's definitely got a shorter front overhang and a shorter rear overhang, and it must weigh like just 70% of a 325 convertible. I mean, this thing looks like it's light and fun to drive, and again, was never brought on our shores. So just a really cool car. Paul says he drove one and didn't fit in it. He said his head was sticking out over the windshield. I think I've sat in one, but I don't remember noticing the windshield being like that low. It is kind of the speedster of 325 convertibles, if that makes any sense. But just a looker in every way. They made a serious amount of these cars overseas, JP. 8,000 units crafted from 89 to 91. So, there's plenty of them out there, and they're old enough to bring to our shores. But this, I would say, JP, having looked at a bunch of them, sort of being in the market and the business as a car salesman, this looks to be one of the nicer ones I've ever seen. And those seats look awesome. I mean, there's something very inviting about that cabin. Without droning on forever, I started the bidding, John, at, if I can click my right button here, $65,000. JP, you took a very harsh under at $43,000. That's actually over 20 grand under me. Paul Kramer went $51,111, and Chef parked his bid, again, close to Paul, at 55 grand. JP, the result was $60,000, and I will point out to the nerd herd that you gave the win to Chef because he was $5,000 away, but I was also $5,000 away, and so I penciled my name in next to Chef's on our shared document that I get to split the win with him because I was $5 grand over.
Price is Right doesn't split. If you go over, you're the loser.
Oh, we've never played that before. Anyways, in any case, Deeb and Chef will share the win on that one. You can take it away from me in spirit.
Dirty cheating. Dirty
the fans
cheating.
know.
Let's let the nerd herd decide. Did Deeb win, or did Chef win, or was this a split? We cite the Price is Right in the beginning of the show. Clearly, the small print says Price is Right rules. If it's even, over is the loser.
If we played by that since the beginning, which is 3 years ago, you would have to take away more than half of my wins because I always bet the over. I'm a bust in Vegas. But JP, so 60 grand for a domestic titled Z1 with just 21,000 miles out of Ridgewood, New Jersey. You like that number for that car? Because when the market is high, these cars have traded for 100 grand with not many fewer miles than this. And I would say, while Paul made a great argument about bright colors for a toy car, I think this car looks savage in black. I actually really like this car in this color. I think this is a steal. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that just makes sense because the market's soft and it's a weird car that, like you said, you can't get parts for?
Well, I got to go back to your winning or not winning. I mean, really, the big winner on this one is Anthony. He got a freaking Yahtzee, dagnabbit.
Oh,
and Chris was like dollars away. Chris was at 59,876. So the nerd herd always knows better than us. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah. Good job, Anthony. There's a Bid Nerds branded Speedo in the mail to you right now.
Used.
We'll use your business address. Yeah.
I mean, the result. Look, the big surprise to me, the thing that I learned on this show, is that there are so many of them. I mean, I always assumed that this was
8,000.
I didn't honestly. If you had asked me, I was like, I don't know if they even made it. I thought it was just like a one of the cars that they show in a car show. What do they call that? A concept car. I didn't know they actually even made the damn things. So to find out there's 8,000 of them, and I know they're not here in America, but still that they're in the world at all. There's more of these than Fiat 850 Sport Spiders. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's crazy.
And these will actually get you where you want to go. And I kind of really want one, except that it looks like they're a little too expensive. I mean, $60,000. It just does not. I mean, I like E30s, and they drive great. But they're not a $60,000 driving experience. So this car, I'm sure, is fun and neat and has the top down and all that kind of fun stuff. But if one of these could be had for like 30 or something, I think it would be great. But twice that, get out of here.
All right.
What do you guys think of the results of this little BMW Z1 with folding doors? Holy cow. Don't get in a small side impact accident because you aren't replacing that.
Take your head off.
Right, yeah. If you
go right over the door.
I'm just more worried about trying to, let us know in the comments below what you think of the Z1. Is it a cool car? Do you like the Z1? Do you think they should have brought them to America? Why do you think they didn't? Let us know. I just thought
about those doors, and they're kind of like a guillotine, because if you got in an accident, it would take your head off.
You can't put your head under. How would it's not there's no hole. Okay.
Just the motion of it. It's like the way the door opens is like a guillotine. Yeah. I just saw Napoleon the other night. So,
was that any good?
No, don't waste your money.
Anthony wants a Bid Nerd Speedo in extra large. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Extra large, my ass.
That is, I think that's what he was referencing to. Okay, let's move on to the last car from the last episode. This one right here. Talk about proving that you don't know. Anyways, go ahead. What do we got?
I don't. All right, 2001 Jeep Cherokee Sport 4x4 with a Dominator track system from, what's the name of that company, JP? American Track Truck. The car is already done. JP astutely pointed out that 184,000-mile Jeep Cherokee with the 4x4 and even just an automatic, and even considering the amount of rot that is already on this car, is still worth $5,000 or $6,000, and the system is about 10 grand, and that's before somebody installs it. Although JP claimed that it was easy, and you could, if you're handy, probably do it yourself. But this one is done, and it's sitting in Minnesota. And I kind of laughed, and I had to start the bidding, and I really have no idea what this is worth. I didn't think anybody would pay a premium for this car. Later, I would be proved to be correct, but I started the bidding at just $8,000. After JP picked himself off the floor and stopped laughing at me, he bid twice my bid at $16,500. Paul reasoned around JP's bid and semi-agreed with him, coming in at $14,001. And then Chef sided with me and took the under at $7,000. The result of this car was that the hammer fell at $13,500 on 35 bids, but it failed to sell at that number, which means what, JP? Does the guy who wanted $16,000 to $17,000 to $18,000 for it, is he correct? Or do you say that if this car got 35 bids on the largest auction platform in the world, and they think it's only worth $13,500 in the middle of winter, that's what the car is actually worth? How do you read the tea leaves? If the herd stops at 13.5, you go, hey, that's all the car's worth. That's all the money because that's all he got on BAT. Or do you think the number, whatever it is that he's holding out for, is the real number?
I mean, would you sell a racehorse on BAT? Even though it's got
that's
like most eyeballs. I mean, it's like
a racehorse.
Yeah, because it's the wrong place. We always talk about platform, right? It's like, would you put your Ranchero that you sold last week on PCAR market, right? That's the wrong place. BAT is the wrong place for what is basically a utility. It's more of a tractor than anything else. So since the horse thing doesn't work for you, this is why everyone hates people from California. It's because this is the vehicle, some guy in Minnesota or Idaho or Montana or whatever, he's driving down the road in this thing going 10 miles an hour in, the morning after the blizzard. And there's some a-hole from, LA that bought himself a ranch in Idaho, and his Cayenne diesel is in the ditch. Right? Because he's like, I've got 4x4, I know that guy. It goes anywhere. Look at me. And he's, and so here comes the guy in his rusty, stupid, beat up, tractor or his, Cherokee, and he pulls the dippy city boy out. This is a utility vehicle. It's not a collector car. It's not an enthusiast car. This is something like, we were talking about on the other side. It's like a snowmobile. This isn't for the person who doesn't have a snowmobile. This is for the person that has 5 snowmobiles. He already has those, right? This is for the guy that doesn't want to spend literally $50,000 on a snowcat, which is how much those cost. I'm sure that this guy in Minnesota will put it up on, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or
Craigslist.
He could probably go down to the feed store and put a picture of it up on a bulletin board and get 20 grand for the stupid thing. It's interesting that he tried the BAT thing, and it's fun, and it definitely makes for interesting talk, but that was not, it was just a
He tried to sell it nationally, JP, and the point you accidentally made is that he should have sold it regionally, and I couldn't agree with you more. And he probably might get a premium price for it in that regard, because there is the customer that needs it and doesn't have to transport it. So it does make sense. And I think Wade would have said that if he was on the show, because he's really good at that. Let's jump to our commercial break, and then we have to pick 3 of these 4 cars. I'm down to I'm getting low on battery, brother. Let's go.
All right, here, let's go. We will be right back with some new predictions. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds.
Get those nerds!
Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. Fine Swiss repair. If you've got your fine Swiss watch and you're looking at it going, what time is it? It is the Our Smiths time for new predictions. All right, so let's get to it. What is the first car on the list, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP. One of the things we love about BAT is occasionally one of the things we hate about BAT, and that is the peanut gallery of commenters that really have no intention of buying the car, but try to pick it apart. Chris Carbine has submitted for us a 2023 Porsche Boxster Spider that is being offered for sale on BAT out of Marietta, Georgia, by a friend of his. And the friend of his that bought this car had a company that I think is called Demand Motorsports of Nyack, New York. And what they did is they took the Boxster Spider motor, the normally aspirated motor, and they bored it out from 4 liters to 4.5 liters. And, it's Mahle pistons and Carrillo connecting rods. They revised the heads, and they put a Sharkworks exhaust system on there. Now, I didn't read the whole thing. There are a lot of comments. I did not have time to read the whole thing, but I did read the part that got Chris Carbine's attention, because it's his friend's car that's getting not killed, but unnecessarily messed with in the comments. And that is to say that somebody asked the seller if he had taken and gotten oil samples they were asking and demanding, like, how can you sell a car with a modified motor if you haven't provided oil samples or fuel samples? I can't even remember what it was, JP. I read it last week, and I'm still, my mind is still in the game. But it was just like in the years that you and I have been paying attention to this. This goes back predating the show, but like to the beginning of our friendship when we were, hanging around God and it was like, did you see that car that sold on BAT? I've never heard of anybody ask for what this guy was asking for. And then the seller was like, well, yeah, I hadn't thought to do that, but I'll try to get one out for you right away. And I disagree with that. I don't think you should have to. This is an effing joke. Look, if you swear by the reputation of the shop that did it, then don't judge it on the seller, judge it on the shop. The car only has 12,000 miles on it. I'm not sure how many miles were done on the like how many miles are since the motor was enlarged, but like, why would you ask a question like that? Either you think Demand is a reputable place, you've heard good things about them, or you called the shop yourself and you talk to them and you make an informed decision based on that conversation, or you just say, no, I wouldn't buy a car that's modern that has an unnecessarily modified motor. Like if you go rebuild a motor on an old 911 because it was tired, so why put the stock stuff in? Let's kick up the compression a notch. That all makes sense. But somebody did this just for pleasure. The car was driven in pure enjoyment because that's all this is not a commuter car. This is a effing sports car. I just think that the comment stuff is out of control, JP. BAT cannot rein in the monkey. They're never going to be able to put a stop to it. But this is a new one, even by my standards, where it just raised an eyebrow. And Carbine's friend, to his credit, is being polite. He's being responsive. He's taking accountability and trying to do something about it. I don't know if he got the results back. I honestly didn't look at it today because, like I said, I was in front of the TV all day. But it's just it's bonkers and it's kind of unnecessary. This is a special car with, I'm guessing, the complete rebuild on this motor had to be in the $40,000 to $50,000 range at least. Wouldn't you agree with that? And so I imagine this car is 911 GT3 Speedster levels of like fun, because this has got to be, a 500 plus horsepower car that is just even lighter than a 911. It's got to be an amazing driving machine. And as such, demands a premium, and either pay it and have fun with it or do your own research. But to jump down the seller's throat like this is another one that was like way out of bounds, in my opinion, JP. So based on my crude recounting of the story, what's your knee-jerk reaction to that? As it was, like I said, I didn't do a great job of presenting, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah. Okay. So one, the car is magnificent, and you say what I don't think this thing would be much like a 911, like a GT3 Speedster. I think it'd be more like a GT4, right? I mean, that's really what this is. It's a GT4 without a roof, or GT4 RS. Sorry, is what I meant to say.
Right.
This
good,
thing is
good,
just,
good comp. Yeah, it's a good comp.
So, but that being said,
and with a manual versus the PDK, so arguably
perfect,
more fun,
even better.
Yeah.
So call it a GT3 ST,
right.
or call it a GT4 ST, or something like that, right?
Yeah. Totally.
The comments thing on BAT, it's like cancel culture. It's like SJW warriors.
Yes.
It's like this world where people, they say something wrong on social media or on TV or whatever, wherever they're at, and there's this class of people. They're midwits. They are low. It's not just that they're people that don't have a lot of authority in their life. So they're looking for some place to exert power on someone else. And it's the only place in their entire life. Everywhere, whenever someone's like, they should get an oil temple for, whoever this asshole is, he is in his normal life, everyone is like telling that guy to, hey, clean my shoes, or hey, you missed a spot behind the second urinal over there, right? These are loser type people that have, you saw this all over the place during, COVID and all that kind of stuff, but this cancel culture thing has to end. When the thing that Joe Rogan kind of proved, and a bunch of people are proving right now, if you look at who's the UFC fighter that's all over, the Bud Light thing or whatever. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't need to bring them up. But the point is that people try to cancel these guys and you don't apologize. And I think that someone has to kind of set a new tone. A seller needs to be like, not be a jerk necessarily back to the guy, but just like, this builder is reputable If you think that you need an oil sample, take it up with them and go back to cleaning the toilet. Because that's where we know you're all about, right? I mean, this just stop being nice to these effing a-holes. I get being cool and taking the high road, but there is a certain point you give someone a chance. You give it, because sometimes people type something too quickly or whatever. But and sometimes people are just accidentally rude, and sometimes you don't get context or you don't get subtlety when you're typing a comment, but you give them a chance to be a human being, and then when they're not, then go for the jugular and put these people down. And who cares if a bunch of people in the comments jump on you? So what? Let it happen. Let's see what happens with the auction. Because I guarantee you, just like when people kind of, it's like when a bunch of people go out to cancel a company for one reason or another, they're people that weren't buying that product in the first place. So stop placating to this teeny little percentage of people that want to have a little bit of power on the internet. Tell these people to F off, move on. And I think this guy's car is so awesome. He doesn't need to be nice to this person. Someone is going, this car is going to bring good money because it is one of the best driver cars I think that there is right now. So F that guy. Sorry. A little bit of a rant, but I'm just so over these guys.
Well, and that's why we're looking at this particular one. It's really not as much about the car, but it's about like the auction process and the platform. JP, I agree with you on a lot of levels. Somebody should do that, but not everybody's cut out for like taking that on, especially in a public forum. It's really hard for people. I mean, look at how nice Solomon was, with his car, and then he got paid for it. You and I are cut from a little bit,
but hold on a second. I mean, I don't disagree with you, right? But if Solomon wasn't nice, if Solomon said, hey, dude, those aren't, when the guy was like, oh, you're not wearing gloves in that one shot. If he came back and was like, bro, yeah, I wasn't wearing gloves in that one shot because that wasn't my hands. That was the guy who was making the video. Go to hell. He still would have got the money. Because the car was awesome and he was awesome and people liked him, even though none of those people that were pointing out that he wasn't wearing gloves in that one shot were people that had any chance of buying the car. God dang it.
I agree with you, but I just wonder if that nice aura that was around his auction would have held up all the way through to the actual final number. Look, we have no way of proving that, JP, and I'm not arguing semantics, but I'm just saying some people don't want to mess with that good juju. Solomon didn't and got all the money. You and I would take that risk and go, and we would put people in their place.
Well, hold on. Okay. But with Solomon is a nice guy, right? So Solomon didn't have to do anything.
What are you saying?
Yeah. Solomon's a nice guy. We're not. I'm certainly not, right?
I'm wearing black.
I just don't think he needed to even go there. I just be like, hey, buddy, figure it out.
Right.
And everyone else would have come to his defense. Yeah.
You and I did jump in and sit that guy down. And be
I know you say that there's no proof that would work, but there is proof in the, what it would be, allegory, where you say that, what we found out is that when you apologize to cancel culture, it doesn't matter. They just want more. They just want more blood. They smell blood in the water and they go for it. They smell
blood.
Right?
That's exactly right. They're sharks.
They're sharks, right? And I feel like that's what happens when somebody makes a negative comment. And then someone's like, oh, I can make a negative. I noticed something too. I noticed a screw. Look, there's a screw over there. I saw the screw. And and now the poor seller's like, oh, I'll go get another picture for. Oh, let me do. Oh, I'm so sorry that I didn't get the picture of the screw of the thing and this. And it's like no, just fuck off, dude. Sorry, I just F-bombed on my own live show and I'm not supposed to, but I just no. So
I'd like to apologize for my partner to our sponsors.
Yeah, sorry about
the comments by my partner do not represent me or anyone else.
That's why we have the disclaimer at the beginning of the show. It's not for Michael Deeb. It's definitely, let's be honest here, or any of the guests or the nerder. It's always me. All right, what do we think this thing's going to bring? That's the big question. Despite the shenanigans in the comments.
I also want to point out, we said that the Demand Motorsport in Nyack, New York was the one that did the motor. Rick Demand of that company, that's his handle on BAT. He has come in and commented several times to help the seller get this car over the comments and across the finish line. JP,
hold on. Who's the seller? Is it Gas Motor Cars? Is
the seller, John? Just give me 1 second while I pull it up.
Because there's Gas Motor Cars in the comments. Hey, how you doing, Gas Motor Cars?
No, the seller is Amarazzulo 517. And then Rick DeMann, who did the work on the car, has come into the defense of the seller. Amarazulu is, I think, a friend or a colleague of Chris Carbine from Carbine Motorsports in New Orleans. So, and this guy's in Marietta, Georgia. They're not at all that far away.
Okay.
So, JP, our car closes tomorrow. It's currently sitting at $129,550. There was a fun little game that somebody was playing in the comments saying over or under, setting it at $165,000. I think that that's a good number to work with. And in this moment, I will take the under at 129,551. JP, I'm going to go $155,000 where I think it will sell. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for all of there's a lot of hubbub going on, obviously, with the economy, and people have been talking about all these crazy stuff. But, look, that stock market's on a tear. People are probably unrealistically and naively optimistic. A lot of people think that interest rates are going to come down. What do you guys think? But the Feds have kind of alluded to the fact that they're probably not going to do it in spring. It might get pushed. The first time they do it might not be till summer. Or late spring, and again, whether or not you think that's a good thing or bad thing, it will affect car values. But right now, the market is in a weird spot. A lot of people thought that this last month was going to be horrible, and it just wasn't. We've still got the Feds printing money. There's still money getting dumped into the system.
They're really good.
That's the
one
money
thing
is
really pretty.
Yeah,
they're so good at it.
Well, they're not. That's the thing. They don't even have to print anymore. It's just ones and it's just ones and zeros that they just add to accounts and stuff. So, when they say they're going to send $1 billion to some country in another, for some war, that really means
as soon as it dries.
Yeah, that really means the $1 billion is going to Raytheon or something like that. And so, all those guys are getting the money. So that winds up going back out in the system. So there's a lot more liquidity in the system that should be, and I think we're seeing it with values of cars. I mean, you look all over the internet, and all everyone says is that everything's crashing. And I did it again over the weekend. I looked at all the sales on BAT, and really it was like less than 10% had failed to sell. 90% of everything, more than 90% of everything on BAT is actually selling. Now, are reserves lower? Are the prices a little lower? Yes, because of that correction that we talked about at the top of the show. And also, it's January, and a lot of this stuff is just seasonal. We're going to roll into, soon it's going to be early spring and late winter, and people start getting a little bit more optimistic. They get money back from their taxes, all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a little bit of a rip there. The question will be what happens after that. You gave a number on this car?
I did, JP. I gave you 155,000. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm going way over. I'm going 175. I think these cars, GT4 RSs are still really hard to get, and so are Spyders, frankly. Just a regular Spider is hard to get. Matt Farrell loves his, and he, his was built by the same guys, right? And so, he just spews nothing but love for that car, and I think a lot of enthusiasts hang on his every word. So
surprised he can fit in it with. I'm surprised he can fit in it with the door closed.
That's true. Because
that's the guy that lost 50 pounds.
Because his ego won't fit. That's the problem.
Right. It's got to be a Spider.
That guy is such a. It's got to have a lot of blue sky above it for that fat head to fit in there. I thought mine was bad. So that's where I'm at. All right. So hold on. Before we move on, I just want to give everyone a chance to put in the comments below your bid. Play along with us. See if you can beat the nerds. And the nerd herd is after it, man. They're with us. Most of them are with you. I think I'm one of the high bidder. Oh, Randy was up there a little above me. So I like
Randy's optimistic.
I like what Jim
I'm down
Baggins
to 10%. We started at 40%. I sped us up at 20. I got 10% left. So let's run through these next two cars, JP, because I don't want to leave you hanging at the end of the show.
Okay, what's the next one?
All right, JP, go ahead and close it off. All right, so our next car, John, is a 2005 Ford GT that is currently on Hagerty Marketplace auctions. Our car is located in Somis, California, down south. Our car has just 1,200 230 miles on it. It is bright red. And, there are 4 options available on the Ford GTs. This car, I believe, is a 3-option car. The 3 options being that it has the, where do the options go? Here we go. Options. Okay. So it does have the forged aluminum BBS wheels. It does have the Macintosh stereo system. It does have painted brake calipers, the red finish painted brake calipers. And then the graphics are the stripes that go over the top. This car eschews the top graphics and just has the Ford GT written on the bottom. So I think this is, and again, I've never owned one. I don't know anybody that owns one, but I think this would be qualify as a 3-option car. Blake, who is my colleague at Haggerty that is representing this car, if I said that incorrect, please forgive me, but I'm going to call this a 3-option car with super low miles. And John, I actually think I like it like that with just the lower thing and not the stripes. I never really liked the stripes over the top of these, and yet most of them seem to have it. Looking at this car with the whole red over that front hood is a sinister looking hood with the headlights and the scoops and the vents coming from the radiators in the middle of the front hood. I think when you take the stripes out of the equation, you really get to appreciate the lines that are on this car that were drawn. Of course, these are a 5.4-liter V8 that is supercharged. These cars made 550 horsepower, and it was a homage to the Ford GT40. Really cool car. Not a ton of them were made. And this one, again, is low miles, 3-option, and I think it stands out because it's just a little different. So, JP, I send over to you the Ford GT. If you had between $250,000 and $500,000 burning a hole in your pocket, and you certainly couldn't afford a Carrera GT or, let's call it whatever the latest Ferrari, manual Ferraris are now a fortune. Would you ever think about giving it up for an American car with a manual gearbox that, could put almost all of those cars to shame and sound good in the process? This is kind of a neat car. They've never been inexpensive that I can remember. What do you think?
Well, they definitely were inexpensive for quite a while when they were contemporary. They couldn't sell these. They were back a book. Ford priced them so wrong. I think they were like $100,000 or something like that when they were new, or 90 or something. I mean, it was ridiculous. But that was, in 08, 09 when, they could not move these cars to save their damn life. This was a car, speaking of Matt Farah, when this car was contemporary. I remember one of his early films on YouTube. One of his first kind of big viral videos was a video of this. What was he? He was a contributor for one of the other channels at the time. But at the time, he said that this car was his favorite car of all time. And I don't know what his current opinion of this car is now that he's driven and owned so many other cars that could be considered better. But if my ship came in, this is the only American car that would be on the list. This is absolutely a car that I would love to own. And this car is probably the only American car that is in front of the line when it comes to a lot of Porsches and other Italian stuff. I would absolutely, if it's this or anything Italian that is the same value, I'm getting this. Because for at $300,000, what are you talking about? You're not getting an F40. So yes, I would absolutely rather have this car. Lamborghini. I don't want a Diablo. I would absolutely get this over a Diablo. I would absolutely get this over a 355, Challenge or whatever. Even though, so there it is. These really are freaking spectacular cars that were like, for a long time. Back when everything was cheap, these were $150,000. But they languished for a while. They wouldn't beat 150 and then all of a sudden they spiked.
I think what it was, JP, when they were new, the reason why they had a hard time actually moving them is because Ford dealers were getting an allocation. They ordered them the way they wanted to order them. Ford was charging $100 or $130,000 for the car, but the dealers all wanted $150,000 over. And so they had a hard time getting enough buyers to take them all off the lots across the country at the addendum sticker prices. And I think it took, they made them, I think, only in 2005, but I think it took 2 or 3 years to sell them all out. But they've always sold for $300,000 since, which is kind of weird. With that in mind, our car is sitting at $300,000 and it closes tomorrow on 26 bids, which is pretty good action. And again, it's on Haggerty Marketplace. This is still a growing platform that is, cutting out a niche for themselves and making a name. They're getting more converted viewers to registered bidders all the time. 26 bids with a day to go. I like where this is going. I think this car is represented pretty well. I don't think there's a shortage of Ford GTs out there, but I think this one, again, not having the stripes and having the low miles, I think does stand out a little bit. So with that in mind, I think this one is going to do well, John. I also want it to do well for my buddy. So I'm going to say $400,000, and it'll sell at that price. And just so you know, that on the Haggerty valuation guide, a number 3 good condition is $365,000, and a number 2 excellent condition, which is higher in value, is $408,000. I would say this is an excellent condition car that's presented really well with low miles and and all the options. So I think this is about a number 2 value if you think the Haggerty guide is relatively accurate. So there, I'll give you that little head start because we don't cover this many exotic cars. So I just thought that might help. Okay.
Yeah, I think. I think it's gonna get close to 400. There was an accident in the car, but it doesn't sound like it was a big deal. It was very, but so I'm gonna say 399,999. I'm gonna park it literally $1 behind you and say it just kisses 400, but doesn't get there. And that's mostly, honestly, because of the Haggerty marketplace. I'm not 100% confident they have the eyeballs, except with the caveat that, you've told me that American stuff is what sells there. So
absolutely,
maybe it really is the right platform and maybe it is better than BaT. So this will be an interesting one to watch. And I'm glad you brought it to the show. What do you guys think this GT will bring? One more question before we move on to the next car.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like even at 400, right? And again, ship comes in, right? Money isn't really an object. Even if I had the money for the new Ford GT, I would rather have this one. I wouldn't even, even if I had unlimited 100%. Funds, I would never consider the new one. Like it would never, it's not even on the radar.
It's a video game.
Yeah. Don't care.
First of all, the cabin is not comfortable. There's no nostalgia to it. And here's the dirty little secret. The racing team that actually builds the car for Ford is in Canada. The new Ford GT isn't even really, like if we're pulling back the curtain to see the wizard, it's not even effing American, John. It's a Canadian car. It's a fraud. The car is a fraud. Don't get me wrong. The car is amazing for doing laps on a racetrack, but you could drive a Ford GT, this car, to a Cars and Coffee and turn all the heads. And when you took off, everybody would videotape you in the exhaust. Everybody would be like, dude, your car sounds amazing. The new Ford is a twin turbo V6 and it's paddles and you can barely fit in it. I'm with you 1,000% every time. 365 days a year, you and I would choose the exact same car. We would never choose the other one.
Yep. All right. So what do you guys think the Ford GT will bring? Let us know in the comments below, and you're going to find out very soon how much the car actually brings. All right. Let's get to the last car of the night. What do we got?
All right, JP. So on PCAR Market, we saved the best for last, is this 1986 911 Turbo out of Oceanside, California. The car showing just 30,000 original miles, which is pretty epic. And it is this incredible shade of moss green metallic with a take it or leave it. They call it brown interior. Somebody in the comments asked if it was burgundy because it looks burgundy in the photos. I would call the color chestnut, the leather, if you could maybe skip ahead and show people what I'm talking about. I would love it if this car had a black interior, but I don't hate the chestnut interior. I'm totally down with it. Where it gets weird is how this guy is defending the car in the comments. And he is saying, John, that these gaudy wheels were a European option and that this car came with the gaudy wheels. But the car is a domestic car. So why would he defend it by saying it's a European option? Because the car wasn't a European car. It doesn't have a ZZZ VIN. It has a regular VIN and COA to prove that it was a U.S. emissions equipped car. Low miles, looks to be in nice condition. It should break the bank. But he's dying on the hill of the gaudy wheels are original, but he's not the original owner of the car. And John, I've worked for Porsche. You and I went to Germany for them, for God's sakes. I've never heard of a 911 coming with gaudy wheels. Can we just dispel that right now? You've never seen that in all your years of loving 911s, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Those are
I like them,
aftermarket
but those
wheels,
are not.
Yeah, they're aftermarket wheels. They're period correct.
Yeah,
they're actually probably worth $8 to $12,000 because they're so cool. But why would you defend something if you can't prove it's true? And of course the gaudy wheels are not on the COA, so it's like, what are you talking about? So he's ruining his own credibility by defending something that's out of his control and he can't validate. So look, this car was always going to have an uphill battle because it's on PCAR market versus being on BAT, where I think this car would probably have knocked it out of the car. I don't think, John, if like, you can leave the Gaudis on there and just say that somebody changed out the wheels, buy your own Fuchs if you want them. And then the steering wheel is a Porsche steering wheel, but it's a Club Sport steering wheel. And he's saying that the wheel came on the car as well. No, they were on the car when you bought it, but they didn't come from Stuttgart that way. Yeah. But this super low mile, super rare shade, really nice condition car, even with 2 tasteful period correct mods, this car should have been pushing $200,000, and instead, I think it's going to fail to sell and wind up in the chum bucket in a stratospheric number. So I'm going to send it to you because I'm running low on fumes here on battery. What do you think about this? PCAR market always produces soup sandwiches that are so hard to cut through. What do you think, JP? Do you like the car? And then what do you think is going to happen on this platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Love the car, love the color, love the combo, love the gaudy wheels. Honestly, our good friend Chef, he has a black on black Euro 86. That's why I thought you picked this one, because this looks so much like his car.
His car.
Yeah. And I remember when he came across the gaudy wheels from Todd over at Trophy. He had them in the back, and he was sending pictures of, what do you think of these wheels? What do you think of these wheels? And everyone from Rami to, everyone was like, no way. And I'm just like, I saw him like, oh my God, yeah, get those. So he got them refinished, got them in gold or something, like golden. He redid them black in the middle. Sorry, not gold. And they just look magnificent on his car.
That's awesome.
They look so dang good. Oh, sorry, we've got some.
I looked at that thing and I was like,
hey,
my battery or your battery? I know. Battery here. Keep it going.
Yeah, no, I love this car, and yeah, what a weird hill to die on. PCAR market now, in the analysis of Bring a Trailer and even Cars and Bids, yes, we're seeing correction in prices, and we're seing maybe a few more FTSs than we saw maybe in the summertime, but still, most 90-something% of the vehicles listed on Cars and Bids and PCAR market, or not PCAR market, but Bring a Trailer, are selling. And most of the stuff that isn't selling is weird stuff that, who wants anyway. So then you go to PCAR market and stuff's not selling on PCAR market because PCAR market is the bottom feeding platform. And I think people are they kind of know that. And, so people are like, the only people that are going to the platform are people that want unrealistic reserves and want to get to market quickly. And of course, PCAR market doesn't care about any of that stuff. They'll let anybody sling anything so they get a second crack at, second bite at the apple with their chum bucket in the deal tank. And yeah, just about everything winds up in the chum bucket. And
so true.
And it's hard to find a car on there now too because they're selling old, gas station signs and memorabilia and watches and stuff.
It's not even authentic stuff. It's all remanufactured crap. They have so much of that stuff. I actually think that they own a business that's producing that stuff because they just keep producing Dino signs and just weird stuff. So anyway, all right, should we jump into the bids?
Yeah, what do we think it's going to bring?
I don't want to leave you hanging. So John, our car closes in 2 days, so it's going to close on Tuesday. It's currently sitting at $75,000 on, get this, just 3 bids. I actually think he's talking people out of bidding on his car because he's defending it with naivety or ignorance, or he's just straight up lying, which none of those things are going to serve him in order to retail his car. I still think the car is a stand-up car. It's a car that I think a lot of collectors would love to have there. A low-mile, off-interior, sort of rarer shade. I had to look up the color because it's not oak green. It's moss green. Look, it might be polarizing, but the people who want it will pay dearly for it. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I do think it's going to get a number that you might think that they should take, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to give you, wait for this, JP. I actually think this is going to happen. I'm going to give you $148,930 where it'll fail to sell. And I believe this is a $185,000 car, and I think he's going to ask for that in the chum bucket. After the auction closes, I think he's going to look to get somewhere between 180 and 200 grand for it. And I think the car is worth that. But the way he's represented it, I think he shot himself in the foot. The photos are terrible. The car is amazing. Platform's bad. The seller's bad. The photos are bad. It's going to FTS at my number. Where's your number?
What was your number one more time? 148.
148,930.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good take. I don't think it's going to get quite there. I definitely agree that it's going to FTS. I'm going to say 110,930 and say that, yeah, definitely goes in the FTS and probably comes back at like $175 or something like that in the deal tank and still won't sell at all. Neat ass car. Too bad that this guy's just a goofball. What do you guys think the 930 with Gotti, original Porsche factory Gotti wheels, apparently. Moron. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the 930 will bring? Let us know in the comments below. And we're gonna wrap this one up because Deeb still has, revelers in his house. They're probably throwing up on the carpet and frying the fish out of the fish tank, and God knows what's going on in the other room.
Fresh sushi.
All the people that you don't want to be topless are probably topless. That's the problem. It's all the wrong ones. That's true. Yeah. So,
hey, big shout out to the herd. We love that you guys are with us. We got so many people, that constantly watch the show religiously. You guys have made doing the show, which was fun for JP and I, unbelievable experience, and we cannot articulate the words to tell you how much it means to us to have you with us. Even on a night like this, when all the rest of the planet is watching football, you guys would come on here with us and watch us stumble through another show. Thank you for everything.
You guys are the best. And welcome to the new members of the Nerd Herd. You guys rock. Thanks for finding the channel. We're getting a lot of great comments. So the last live got a ton of views for us based on what and with lots Kramer of comments and stuff like that. I think I had some kind of clickbaity, title that definitely helped. I want to avoid the super hard, I put flames and why isn't anything selling in the last one like everybody else is doing. That definitely seemed to work. And I hate the fact that it did. But it did get us new subscribers, and it did get people that love the channel, new people to the channel. It did get some people that are pissed off that there was clickbaity title, but whatever. Thanks for being part of the herd. And Rochelle from Guys Customs made this shirt. Spread the word, grow the word.
I like how she spelled word.
That's
WRD.
Right.
That's awesome. So that was cousin Mark's. I need one of those in XXL for my cousin Mark because I think he was the one that coined the phrase "spread the word and grow the herd." That is awesome.
These will be available on the Guys Custom Etsy's page.
And can you buy them at LA Literature and Toy Show on February 24th, Saturday at LA Hilton? Are they going to be on the table?
That's a good question. I don't know how many we're going to make. We're going to make them to order. So that's typically the way she does it. So because these are all one-offs. And then
I see.
Also the new nerd hats. So
are the snapbacks? The real snapbacks, right?
Yeah, real snapbacks. So this was the original hat that has
which was a trucker hat, right? Foam.
Yeah, they're both. No, this one's a snapback as well. But the logo's in the middle on the seam. I know it's kind of hard to see, and it didn't print right on the seam. So what she's decided to do is put the logo off to the side. There's still each one of these is custom. She's got this press thing or whatever.
That's awesome.
So they're not going to be cheap, unfortunately, because each one is a one-off. But she is going to offer them with your names on them on the side. So these are going to be available on guys, gyxcustoms.etsy.com. These will be available this week, and I guess she'll ship them out, and then for the people that order them, and then I guess we can bring some to the Toy and Lit show. If any of you guys want to meet us there, we'd love to meet you and hand you your hat if anybody wants to order T-shirts, hats, whatever, tchotchkes. That stuff will be available. So, and we'll probably make a few just to sell. Yeah,
come to LA and hug a nerd.
Hug a nerd. Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. That is an episode. Wednesday night's episode is...
We're going to find out tomorrow if we've got Pete Stout from 000 Magazine as a guest nerd. He is traveling, but he's going to try to come in. He will confirm tomorrow. So just look for an announcement on the socials, because if we do get him, we'll let you know right away. You'll definitely not want to miss that. He's probably the most interesting and most Porsche guy we've ever had on here. And that's saying a lot. We've had some really good guests, but Pete and his magazine are doing some special things. It'll be really fun if we can get him on to play the game and nerd out with us for a little while. He's a real cool car guy, super down to earth. I can't wait for you all to get to meet him and hear him talk.
Do we have any Nerd Herd fans in Cincinnati? I got to be in Cincinnati at the end of the week, of all places. So if anybody's from Cincinnati, hit me up. I'd love to hang out. Yeah.
You lose a bet?
Yeah. Got to do some work. So there it is. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks, God and Classic. And thank you, Our Smiths. And we will see you guys on the next episode. See ya. Oh, before I say... Michael Deeb, Haggerty, if you have your car, if you want to sell your car on Haggerty, Deeb can help you out.
If I can help you, you can reach me by emailing me at mdeeb@haggerty.com and let me know if you want to sell a car online. I'd be happy to help you out.
Also, new episodes on Der Fascination going up every Monday for the next 2 months. So, look, Rochelle's hopping in there. She's, Ross, I'll hook you up, I promise. She's going to get your stuff out. You are going to get such a cool care package, let me tell you. All right, see you guys.
Yeah.
No!